administration. We move on next here tonight to our series of reporting called Impact Check. We focus on the often unseen and sometimes unintended consequences of Florida laws. And tonight we're spotlighting a law that prevented a daughter from seeking justice after her father died in the hospital, where the medical staff there refused or failed to treat his blood clot. And tonight, investigative reporter Katie LaGrone exposes what some are calling Florida's dirty little secret.
This killed me. Please accept our sympathy for your recent loss.
3 years after her father's death, 33-year-old Sabrina Davis is still fighting.
If it keeps somebody else from being in my position, then it's worth it.
For his life.
I believe that he would want me to keep going and not give up on this because he knew.
It happened in October 2020. Sabrina's 62-year-old father, who was on a blood thinner and had a history of blood clots, went to a Florida hospital for a swollen knee. Sabrina says despite their request to do an ultrasound for blood clots, the doctor refused, ordering physical therapy instead.
It was red, it was swollen. It was so obvious that it was more than a pulled muscle.
A few days later,
He said, "Your dad is code blue. He has no pulse and he's not breathing. What would you like us to do?" And I was like, "You have the wrong patient."
an independent autopsy later revealed Sabrina's father had a 9-inch blood clot in his left leg that traveled to his heart and ultimately killed him.
"Dad, you knew it. You were sitting there with a clot. We both knew it. We both asked and nobody listened." After 8 lawyers told me, your dad is single and you're over the age of 25, we can't help you. I started to think, am I explaining myself wrong? Are they not understanding me?
Critics call it Florida's free kill law. The law states if someone 25 or older dies due to medical malpractice in the state, only a spouse or child under the age of 25 can sue for pain and suffering. Since Sabrina's father was unmarried and she was 30 at the time, Sabrina was banned from seeking justice over her father's wrongful death.
To be told you cannot pursue it's like a punch to the gut. It's an awful feeling. It's like you have no rights when it comes to your loved one.
Passed in 1990, the law was created to attract doctors to Florida by protecting them from getting sued over medical malpractice and rising medical malpractice premiums. But more than 3 decades later, there's no data that suggests this law has worked to accomplish any of its goals. In fact, since 1990, federal data shows Florida consistently ranks among the top 3 states in medical malpractice insurance costs, cases, and payouts.
What's the purpose of keeping this law on the books if clearly it hasn't done what it was intended to do?
Well, I don't think any one individual law or one individual reform is going to change things.
Andy Bolin is a trial attorney who represents the healthcare industry. He's also lobbied on behalf of the Florida Justice Reform Institute to keep Florida's free kill law intact.
I do respectfully rise in opposition to the bill.
Florida remains the only state with such a law in place.
It's certainly not meant to send a message or be overly harsh, but it is an example of the way that laws are made and the way that they have to look at the way they impact, the community and society as a whole, as opposed to in the individual's case.
Those individual cases also include Taylor Jenkins, who was 25 years old, unmarried with no children, when she died earlier this year at an Osceola County hospital after being rear-ended at a red light. Doctors initially claimed Taylor died of a brain injury, but an independent autopsy later revealed Taylor died of internal bleeding that went undiagnosed and untreated for hours. The findings even confirmed by the county's medical examiner, prompting them to change Taylor's official cause of death.
I feel like I'm told her life didn't matter.
For her mom, Florida's free kill law kills any possibility of holding the hospital and its staff accountable for her daughter's death.
It protects negligent doctors and hospitals instead of holding them accountable in any and every way possible. And because that's happening, it makes our hospitals dangerous for everybody.
Do you think this law should continue?
No, I don't think the law should continue.
Florida Representative Mike Beltran is a Republican from Hillsborough County, where Sabrina's father died. Though his party is focused on tort reform, this year he says he plans to draft new legislation to end Florida's so-called free kill law even if recent efforts have failed.
I'm not particularly optimistic that there's anything this year that's changed other than continued advocacy.
Which is why Sabrina Davis and Cindy Jenkins aren't staying quiet.
I'm left with the aftermath of other people's actions.
Ensuring lawmakers know their loved ones mattered and how they died shouldn't be protected by a law that isn't solving the problem it was intended to.
I will never give up. I want to see this change. Like, I will never stop fighting. It's just too important to me.
Senator Lauren Book, a Democrat, also plans to introduce a bill to eliminate this law. As for accountability, the doctor who treated Sabrina's dad, he was eventually disciplined by Florida's Board of Medicine with a fine, $7,500 for committing malpractice that resulted in the death of a patient. I'm Katie LaGrone reporting.